Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Today we're going to do a Salute beer.
Salute!
It's not a clone.
Yeah.
Because, if we say it's a clone, then people say, no, it's not, you didn't do blah, 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 as people do. Mm-hmm. And they would be right to do that. But this is a salute to Anchor Steam Beer.
Oh, good. I was afraid it was going to be a salute to Martha Ray. Which wouldn't have...
The Big Mouth.
The Big Mouth.
Well, as on a serious note, Anchor Brewing, which is one of, if not the longest-running American craft brewery, saved back in the 70s, I think, by Fritz Maytag, it was recently announced that they're shutting down. Now, there's an attempt by the employees of the brewery to resurrect it or gain ownership of the brewery and keep it afloat, and we wish them all the best in that regard.
Absolutely.
And we don't know, this is recorded way ahead of time of when we're going to post this, so fingers crossed everything comes out well. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about taking advantage of the Hot Porch to do one more Hot Porch Kveik beer before the summer ended. Mm-hmm. And so I went to looking for lagers. So in the BJCP app, Beer Judge Certification Program app, I put in lager, and one of the things that popped up was the California Common Style, which is not really a lager. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like an ale or an ale brewed with lager yeast. Anyway, it's kind of a hybrid beer, but I thought this would be a perfect beer to do this salute with. Yeah. So Matt Giovanisi of Brew Cabin and I got together on a recent episode of Basic Brewing Radio, and we formulated this recipe. And I think that the malt bill and the hops are going to be pretty close. If you want to take this recipe and just use the California Common yeast instead of the Kveik, I think you'd be pretty close. So I'll be interested to see how this turns out. So anyway, we started with 8 gallons of 30 liters of water at 152 degrees Fahrenheit or 67 C, which is a little warmer than we usually do. And into that water, I put 9 pounds or 4 kilograms of American two-row, 1 pound or 450 grams of 60 Lovibond Crystal, 8 ounces or 227 grams of Munich, that's light Munich, and 4 ounces or 113 grams of Victory, which I had left over from a previous homebrew con. I rested for 90 minutes at 152 degrees Fahrenheit or 67 C, collected my wort at the beginning of a 60-minute boil. I added half an ounce or 14 grams of Northern Brewer at 7.5% alpha acid. At 30 minutes into the boil, I added another half an ounce or 14 grams of Northern Brewer. And then 15 minutes before the end of the boil, I added an ounce or 28 grams of Northern Brewer. So this is kind of like an old style homebrew recipe. Mm-hmm. Then I chilled to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 C and pitched A44 Kveiking, which is a hybrid yeast blend. And I fermented on the Hot Porch. It was bubbling, like 4 hours after I put it out on the porch. It was well on the way. Original gravity 1048, final gravity 1006 for an ABV of 5.5%. So let's taste it while we've still some foam on there. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's
a beautiful beer.
It is beautiful, yep. And it's been a while since I've had an Anchor Steam beer, and of course it's not available here anymore.
That's good. That's really good.
It's got a nice malty smell, aroma.
Yeah, good malt. Clean as a whistle. Mm-hmm. I don't get any farmhousey, weird Norwegian cheese thing. I don't. It's as clean as a Chico strain.
Right.
I mean, there's no funk in this at all.
Of course, the steam beer or the California Common is brewed with a different strain from the Chico.
That's right. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
But similar in that it's not meant to have a yeast character of its own. Now, this is by the way, Matt suggested that since it was going to brew this on the porch or ferment this on the porch, he suggested I name it the Arkansas Porch Steamer. And I said, you could get arrested for that.
You can in Benton County.
They found out he was doing an Arkansas porch stand. but I pitched at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That afternoon, it got up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. Then that evening, it got down to a little less than 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. So it got, close to lagering temperature overnight. So by the morning, the fermentation had slowed down. But then by the afternoon, it was hot again, so it picked back up again. And then I brought it inside over the next night because it was almost done anyway. So I don't think that the Kveik expressed as much fruitiness that it would have had it been 100 degrees outside, and hot overnight. Mm-hmm. I think that the temperature, accidental temperature control, controlled the fruitiness of those Kveik strains. And this is a nice, as you said, clean beer. The hops aren't in your face because it was hopped with the old homebrew strategy of 60, 30, and 15 minutes and no dry hopping.
Right.
So, like I say, it's been a long time since I've had an Anchor steam beer. I kind of think it's probably kind of close.
I think so too. My palate memory of the Anchor steam beer is that what I remember about it, and I haven't had one in, God, I don't know how many years.
Decades.
But I have had that beer quite a bit in times past. It doesn't seem as hoppy. This beer, from my memory, but again, I could be dead wrong.
Is it a little hoppier?
But I remember it being a little bit hoppier, a little bit more bitterness in the beer. That said, this beer is absolutely delicious. So, and I'm kind of talking out of my hat just based on kind of how I remember the beer. But that's a great beer.
Now, thank you. And thanks to Matt for the help in putting the recipe together. We surveyed, he and I both went on a little pilgrimage across the internet and looked at different, California common recipes. And so, there's some variation, but there are some common themes amongst them that we worked into this one. So I think it's pretty close. At least it's close to the other clone recipes that we found out there.
Yeah. So this will be interesting. So I'm brewing at this moment. I mean, it's still in the primary fermenter. I've got it's an English IPA where I used that hopping strategy, Northern Brewer only. And the beer is actually fairly similar in that my recipe is 10 pounds of Maris Otter, half a pound of honey malt, and a half a pound of special roast. Oh. And then an ounce.
Okay.
So twice as much hops. It'll be very interesting to compare this beer to that beer, which I'll get,
And what was the yeast that you used?
Oh, no, I used S33, the Fermentus S33.
Yeah, so it will be a really interesting comparison to see how that yeast compares with this one as well.
Yeah. The only thing, we're not really supposed to be talking about my beer, but the only thing about it is that S33 won't flocculate. It's just like, it's just hazy, and it's not supposed to be. So I'm just giving it time.
Oh, and you brought up something I meant to mention, but I didn't. I brewed this a week ago today. I brewed it on a Thursday.
Amazing.
Brewed it on a Thursday. I kegged it on a Sunday.
Wow.
And here we are on Thursday again.
But never on a Monday, a Tuesday.
So this is a week old.
Wow.
In the keg.
Wow.
And it's
That's
great.
amazing.
It's perfect. It's ready to go. Anyway, all right, this is fun. It's a delicious beer, whether it's faithful or not to the to the California common style.
I don't think it's Marianne Faithful.
Even I don't get that one.
You don't know Marianne Faithful?
No.
She's a singer. Look her up.
Look her up.
Or, well.
We better stop while we're ahead.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all for watching. Good luck to everybody at surrounding the Anchor Brewing workers in the community, and we hope it works out for the best.
That brand has to be valuable.
Oh yeah.
Even if there has to be a niche somewhere for that brand to exist.
Yeah. How much money you got on you?
$25 and a piece of gum.
That ain't gonna work. All right. Thanks everybody. Happy brewing.
Cheers.
Come and visit us online
at basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer.
Wait a minute. I gotta get in character. Okay.
Turn around, put your collar up. Oh, I tell you.
Oh, I tell you.
All right.